get some bold predictions for the preseason next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers. I'm here with Adam Azer, and technically the preseason started last week, but I don't think there were actually any starting caliber players on the field for either Cleveland or I think Mekhi Becton might have played like 20 snaps.
And then he got hurt
in the Hall of Fame game. And that's why no starters were on the field. But preseason week 1 is going to kick off on Thursday. And, we've only got 3 weeks of preseason now, down from 4 the way it used to be for a long time. Obviously, a lot of teams don't really even play their starters. So there's not too much we can learn from the preseason, but there's still a lot of ambiguity out there. And I'm going to start us off on our bold predictions for the preseason with one backfield that I think we could get some, I'm hoping we get some clarity on, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. My bold prediction is that by the end of the preseason, Rashad Penny is going to be the clear lead runner for Philadelphia. Now, DeAndre Swift is going to have a significant role in the passing game. All of the camp reports have made that clear. However, the Eagles have been using all 4 of their backs, including Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, with the first team at times. This is one of these situations where limitations on how much the reporters can actually say don't really make it clear who's the lead back. But I think when we see the way this running game is going to work, I think Rashad Penny is going to be the clear lead rusher, and DeAndre Swift is going to be more of a third down and passing situations back. That's my bold prediction. Adam, let's hear some bold predictions from you.
Okay. Calvin Ridley enters the 2-3 turn discussion with a strong training camp and a preseason touchdown against a second-string defense.
I have already seen Calvin Ridley go as high as 19th. And look, my thing with that is if you think Calvin Ridley's a top 10 wide receiver, that's perfectly fine. I just don't know if anything we've seen so far in training camp should have shifted you in that direction, but I know I'm kind of talking into the void on that one.
What about the touchdown he's going to score against the second-team defense?
That's a good point. That's a good point. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And look, the hype train is in overdrive. He's clearly a talented player. Where do you think Calvin Ridley should be drafted?
Middle of round 3. But honestly, if he is just Calvin Ridley, if he's his old self, then probably middle of round 2. So I think that's a reach that I totally understand.
Sure. Let's. What about some other bold predictions?
Kansas City wide receiver Justin Ross becomes a late round pick and a top 60 wide receiver. He's getting some good buzz. Seems like there's really no. I mean, I know Sky Moore right now is the highest in the rankings for Dave Jamie and Heath. Kadarius Toney is injured. Justin Ross is a guy that's been working with the ones a little bit. Really interesting path to get here. A lot of injuries that he's dealt with. Finally healthy.
Huge production as a very, very young player in college. Had, I think, back injuries, had spinal fusion surgery, really derailed his career, but he was someone that looked like he might have been on the path to being a first-round pick early on in his college career.
Yeah, I think he's worth taking. I think he's – and if you have 5 bench spots, maybe not. But if you have 6, then probably Justin – I would say, 5 bench spots. Try to make room for Justin Ross. You never know what could happen there.
Yeah, really, really big. Has had a bunch of highlight plays in training camp so far. It's not clear, Marquez Valdes-Scantling locked in as a starting wide receiver on the outside for the Chiefs. It sounds like Sky Moore has pretty much locked in a spot. After that, it's really wide open. Justin Watson's someone that they like a lot, but obviously for our purposes, I don't think we see much upside there. Rashee Rice, the rookie wide receiver, second-round pick. Justin Ross, like you said, he brings something a little different to the table with his size in that receiving group, and it could make him stand out. What's your last bold prediction for the preseason?
Ken Walker becomes a late 6th round pick, nearly 70th overall, and he might become one of the steals of fantasy drafts. He's still out. Charbonnet is back. Right now, he's a 5th round pick. So it depends on the ADP you look at. But Ken Walker could keep falling, and if he does, I'll be pouncing because I think as soon as he gets back into camp, it's going to be all good stuff for Walker.
Yeah, I mean, most of what we heard from the injury came about a week and a half into camp, so there's not a ton to take away. But for most of what we heard, it was a clear Kenneth Walker was the number one. Zach Charbonnet, 2-minute drills, obvious passing situations was where he was being used early on. So, yeah, it was funny when we learned about Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet's injuries last Sunday. The initial reaction was, oh, this sounds a lot worse for Zach Charbonnet. Pete Carroll said he was out indefinitely. You can't listen to what Pete Carroll says. He never tells you accurate information when he's talking about injuries. It's just who he is. But, he has continued to downplay the severity of Kenneth Walker's injury. So as long as he's back within the next week or so from that groin injury, I don't think it puts him too far behind. And like you said, there's tons of upside as we saw in the second half of last season. Are you concerned if the injury lingers into like preseason week 2 that Charbonnet could force his way into a timeshare?
That's the concern, is that he has a good backup. I don't think, as long as the injury doesn't,
For those of you watching on YouTube, that's my cat interrupting the podcast.
That's great. As long as the injury doesn't, prevent him from playing in week 1, he's definitely going to be the starter. But he has probably a better backup than most running backs do. So it does concern me a little bit. But I hope he continues to fall, because I love taking advantage of preseason injuries.
All right, that's going to do it for FFT 5. Subscribe to the FFT YouTube channel to see my cat messing with my microphone during the podcast. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.